Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Outlands RoyalTea, a web-based interview show where the current king and queen of the Outlands interview past kings and queens so that they can tell us their stories from their time upon the Stag Thrones. I'll be your host today. Bela is my name. I'm the current king of the Outlands, and I'm very honored and very privileged to have as my guest Duke Cyrred of Ashwood. Your Grace, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Your Majesty. I'm honored to be here.
Well, before we get started, I want to take a moment and talk a little bit about tradition. The first Saturday in January is traditionally Keratin 12th night. And at that event, we traditionally have a candle lighting ceremony or a moment of silence or something of that nature to stop and think about and remember all of those that we've lost. Not just this last year, but all of those bright shining stars of the SDA that are no longer with us. I know we've recently lost to Thorsvald here in the Outlands, and at this time of contemplation and thinking, I can't help but think and be sad at the missed opportunity that Her Majesty and I have for not being able to have Duchess Catherine, Duke Leif Iverson, Duke Olaf Bjornsson, His Grace Lycurgus, Count Leif, all amazing individuals who have served as Crown of the Outlands, and sadly, I will never get to interview them for this show. So if you would join me, Your Grace, and raise a glass and drink to all of those that the SCA has lost. Wait for us in Valhalla. We'll see you soon, but hopefully not too soon. Thank you, Your Grace, for indulging me that. Why don't you take a minute and tell us a little bit about yourself? What would you like the listeners to know about you?
Start from the beginning. Cyrred of Ashwood. My first event was the Grand Outlandish in 1989. That was May, of course, the end of May, Memorial Weekend in 1989. And I think probably by a month, 3 weeks later, I was probably fighting in armor with borrowed equipment, of course, and that was it. The hook was set. Became king relatively quickly in my career because, of course, being the Duke was one of my goals right off the bat, and we accomplished that pretty quick, and I became a knight after that. After I became a Duke, and then it was watching the kingdom grow for me, which was my favorite part. Countless generations of warriors, Outlands warriors that I've stood next to at Australia War. What a great ride. And now, watching my family excel in the game, and it's amazing, and I think that's what keeps it fresh for me. I of course take my breaks. I play in a rock and roll band, so that takes up a lot of Saturdays, a lot of time. Used to. I think my last gig was February 29th. Had a stint where I wanted to go skateboarding while my family attended events, and so I did that for a bit. But I always come back to the SCA. I always do.
What is it about the SCA do you think that makes it so that you always come back?
The sense of community, especially in our kingdom. And like I said, having watched those generations grow up and seeing what they're doing now and watching them become dukes, and and it means a lot to my family. So that's a lot of the reason that I'll sorry guys, I'm not going to make practice this week, or hey, I'm going to be gone for 2 Saturdays because the Stray War's coming up. And but that time, I would happily trade,
For sure.
I'll always have a guitar sitting in the corner somewhere,
Well, that's one of the really One of my fondest memories of you is not just the fierce warrior and the amazing king that you were, but pretty much any event that you're at in the evening, I can find you with the drummers and the musicians, and you're playing music, and you're creating an opportunity for the dancers and for other musicians to enjoy their passion in this game. And watching you play and watching people react to you play has been a great joy of mine throughout the years as well.
Well, I'll have to break out the old 12 string and bring it back when we can gather again. I got a couple of special pieces for you, just for you then.
That's awesome. I used to love listening to you and Mavis play at events, especially Outlandish.
Yeah.
I miss that guy.
I never ever found a person that I could jam with like the way that we jammed. We would pick a key and just run and kind of lose track of time. And the dancers are like, dude, we're tired.
I needed a break.
Write this one down. Okay.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that you reigned fairly early. By looking at the OP, it looks like you were the 13th and 16th king of the Outlands. So your first reign was the summer of '92. So essentially 3 years after you started playing. What do you think it was that helped you, besides having the goal and putting in the time and effort to hone your skills? What were some of the things that helped you achieve that goal so quickly, you think?
Pardon me. There was an amazing amount of Pell practice involved, and some really good teachers that I really liked the way that Johan used his reach, right? And he was one of my biggest inspirations back in the day. I wanted to fight like that dude, and so I took a lot of I guess the right side, my right arm, and where my feet landed to make that right arm big shot work. That I learned a lot of that from Johan. And there was also Sir Rutner, who was the Baron of the Citadel back when I started playing, and he was a Madu fighter, and he fought like a boxer. And he didn't really do things that he told me to do, but he could easily identify, like, you know what you're doing wrong, and just like walk up and take that little piece of clay and put the arm where you want it and put the leg where you want it and say, do it like this. And I every time he said it, whether it seemed crazy or not, I absolutely tried what he told me to do. And we learned a lot about watching people and the whole kind of make a pattern, break a pattern thing, as far as like, if that dude does the same thing when he starts off every time. So there was a lot of that. And then there was also, I fought every chance I could get. And living in the southernmost barony, in the Citadel, we had to travel 4 hours just to get to Alberon. So every chance I got to hitch a ride with someone, I was in that car and riding to Alberon or riding to Kerta or wherever I could, just to get a little depth, because there was 5 or 6 steady fighters, some good fighters in the Citadel back then, but I fought them every week. And I was good at fighting them. But then I traveled to Albuquerque or Alberon and get my ass handed to me by multiple people. Like, okay. So it was like Pell practice, a lot of thought, and a lot of traveling and a lot of fighting. And I think that's, and also I probably surprised a few people in that first tournament. Like, who's this kid?
Right. Do you think that's kind of missing from today? Like that desire to just jump in the car and go anywhere at any time to fight?
I think there's plenty of young men and young women that are totally willing to jump in the car. And if we could do it right now, I bet you every single one of them would jump in the car and drive wherever to go fight somebody. I've watched them. I've watched them year after year, generation after generation of like people that are into it that much, dedicated to it. And you get in, you get out what you put in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so you reigned twice as an unbelted king. And am I correct that you were the first unbelted duke in the Outlands?
I was. That is
Tell us a little bit about that and what that was like for you.
mixed feelings there. There was plenty of people that told me you should wait, and there was some that said, you know what, dude, got something you can go and take right now while you're a young man, you know. And I was proud. I'm kind of proud to have that distinction, but at the same time, being an unbelted king keeps you from doing some of the coolest things about being king, right? I never, in the 4 nights that I made in 2 reigns, never dubbed any of them with the sword stake. But I did get to dub Alric though, so I did dub 1 night with lightning.
Very cool.
Yeah, but if I had it all to do again, I don't think I would change the order of it at all. Maybe just kind of maybe some of the expectations that I may have had after becoming an unbelted dude. And I don't know, maybe I felt like, okay, you know, I'm ready. I'm ready. You give me my belt and chain whenever now. And I learned very quickly. It was probably a couple of months where I just took a step back and I was like, dude, they owe you nothing. They owe you nothing. So just go be Duke Cyrred, man.
Yeah.
And
that's great advice.
Yeah.
Are there things that you think, had you been a member of the chivalry while you reigned, that would have gone differently, or that you would have handled the situation different, or?
I'm sure. Of course, like by that time, you know, if I had become a knight first, I would have sat in circles and kind of like, that was the biggest mystery to me when I was king the first time, like the 3 circles the next day. Right. And so like that, it would have been great to have a little heads up on that, because I pretty much watched this tennis match argument in the first circle I sat in, and like, wow, they're really mad at each other. Morgana reached over and squeezed my hand. She's like, dude, you're the king. You got to stop this shit right now. I'm like, oh, hey. And kind of chilled everybody out. But like, it would have been cool to understand that part a little better.
Right on. I can totally see that. It's funny. I tell people all the time, I used to have the goal of I wanted to win crown as an unbelted king, at least once. And then I was elevated, and then I won the very next crown. And when I stepped down from that reign, I kind of looked in the mirror and I was like, what was I thinking? That would have been horrible if I had gone through that reign as an unbelted king. I wouldn't have been able to do a lot of the things that I ended up doing, because I just wouldn't have had the confidence to step up and do it.
You have to learn that one real fast. The confidence to just go do it, because guess what? You're the king.
Absolutely. Did you have any moments during your first or second reign where you just had like this, oh my God, I am the king right now? Like, did you have those moments where you just felt it and you just knew, yep, I'm the man?
I would say it took me about a month. So coronation was in May, the beginning of May back then. And the first big event is Outlandish. So there was a couple of things that I misspoke, I guess. Is like I said a couple of things in the circle, and I'm not going to go into that part, but I chose words incorrectly. Saying afraid instead of concerned, maybe.
Right.
Should never say afraid when you're reading the Outlands. And some of my very favorite people, good friends of mine, came up to me afterwards and gently corrected me on that. And so after that, I kind of had a like, okay, cool. I'd already been through this peer circle thing. I've already been through like a big event with big courts and lots of awards. And then we kind of hit a groove in that first raid, and Morgana and we just had so much fun. And that was our motto: we are exceeding the limits of fun. And if it ain't fun, we're doing it wrong. So let's figure this out. And once we hit the groove, it was great. So great that when I stepped down and put the crown back on Olaf's head, I went away from that coronation, which was in the Citadel, and started practicing for the next one.
Right on. So it was a goal then to get to that second reign and earn those leaves as soon as possible.
Absolutely. I made the cheesiest county coronets you've ever seen. With some real thin brass. I cut them out with tin snips and filed it down a little bit, stuck a piece of leather inside it and called it good. And Morgana looked at it and was like, this is a piece of junk, man. And I was like, how long do you think you're going to wear it? That's temporary, man. That's just a shiny prop for 6 months. We're on this. And I was totally about it. Totally about it. I was like, quick as I can.
That's awesome. And so you didn't win the next one you were able to, but you won the one after that, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
But did you final in the other one?
The second one, I finaled with Leif Iverson in that. And it was best 2 out of 3, and we both had one loss. And so, yeah, it was a 2 out of 3 fight. And Leif, he schooled me so pretty. He deserved it. He totally deserved it. And just me. It was a Western European weapons only crown tournament, so I didn't have my bottom spike. I didn't have my left jab, and so that took a lot away from my game, and I had to learn how to do everything with my right hand. But I still ended up finaling with Leif, and he slotted me so pretty in the face in that final, and I was like, oh yeah, perfect. I'll see you in 6 months, and won the next one up at Manitou Springs.
Very cool. Did you win both of your crowns with Sword and Madu?
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Little short one though, little 4-footer.
Nice. When you traveled, because I know you went to Pennsic, your first reign, and you did some traveling outside of the kingdom as king. Did you notice any backlash because you fought that weapon style at all, or is that something that developed later in the SCA's history?
Yeah, I don't think there was any hate for it back then. People just didn't understand it so much. But I never ran across somebody that looked down at me for using it. And it's just like any other weapon style. There's things wrong with that style. There's things very, very right about that style. I'm sure you would agree.
Yep. Every weapon has a
I never got a hard time for it because I don't believe that I even used one out there. It was like sword and shield or spear for me, pretty much. I may have done a little bit of glaive fighting then, but it was like spear, sword and board. I think the sword and board was in the woods battle, and the rest of the time I was just out there with spear.
Okay.
Kal-bardr hated it. I think it was Lily's in '93. They looked at it and they're like, "No way, dude!" And they made me put 3-inch thrusting points on it. It looked like a humongous Q-tip. It was hilarious. And so I just I have to do that. No, dude, I'll just put it back in the car. It's no big deal.
That's funny. Do you remember who your champions were for your reigns?
Yeah, my first reign was Gumball, because that was back in the days of the tradition of the second place. Second place guy in Crown Tournament was kind of traditionally the champion, or that's what I understood was the tradition. So I asked him to be the champion in my first reign, and then in my second reign it was Rutner.
Very cool. And I'm assuming you picked him because of the influence and all the help that he had on you when you were first playing.
Yeah, and he was also my queen's husband.
Right.
We traveled together, so it's just, you're going to be here anyways. We bring the sword.
Right on. Very cool. What would you say is your favorite piece of Outlands regalia?
The old crowns.
The originals?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. The history in those two pieces right there. That's my favorite for sure.
Nice. Is there a tradition that you think is uniquely the Outlands that is something that you always look to and are really proud of or that you really enjoy?
Colored Dukes. I'm super proud of that. I mean, really, Johan and Arton started it, but I walked up behind it and just put the boot on it and rolled it down the hill. And I love it. I love the fact that everybody gets their cool little distinction. They're going to be the Red Duke forever.
That is very cool. I'm wearing my red tunic for the Red Duke.
Right on.
So well, that's very cool. Mistress Aldith asked, is there a single experience that stands out to you during your time in the society?
When my wife got knighted, I think that was an incredible day in many, many ways.
That's awesome. Looking back on it and having had the opportunity to reign twice in the Outlands and you know, be the king for a lot of those, you know, up and comers, to see your example of what a king is. What does it mean to you to be king of the Outlands?
Oh, that's a good one. Living up to the traditions, living up to the other kings of the Outlands. You got big shoes to fill. You got to do it your own way. You got to have fun with it. But there's a lot of homage to pay in that one, I believe.
Absolutely. There's one thing that I do that I stole directly from you. I was very new in the society, had been playing 2 years, I think, and you were king, and you came up to the first ever Stag's Bloodbath. It was in Unterhofen out at Pawnee.
Yeah.
And it happened to be, yeah. It happened to be on Father's Day weekend. And I remember going to court, and back then I was very fringy and it was very rare that I went to court. But for some reason I went to that court. And at some point during the court, you called Olaf up and you had this dagger for him, and you gave him this, you did this really awesome speech about, you know, honoring your father and paying homage to your father and those that came before you. And you gave him this dagger as a Father's Day gift. And that kind of stuck with me. And then I had coronations that fell on Mother's Day. So I went and I found out what the Queen's favorite flower was. And I got a dozen of those flowers and I presented them in court in the morning as a happy Mother's Day present. So that's something that I totally ripped off and stole from you.
That's awesome. What a great story. I have the matching. I was given 2 of those by the King of the East. And I have the matching one of those knives still.
That's awesome. When you look back at it and there's stories like that, I'm sure you've heard other stories as well. Like, does it ever like really hit you, like the impact that you've had on this kingdom and the people that have come behind you?
It does. It does. Like when I think more people know me as the Red Duke than know my name is Cyrred of Ashwood. Yeah, I think I probably did leave a nice red stain on that pretty green fabric. Yeah, absolutely, and honored that I could have done it. You know, like I'm give me a sense of pride that people would think of my deeds as that great, you know, or whatever, like that memorable at the very least, right? And yeah, awesome.
That was awesome. So you reigned in the summer of 92 and then again in the winter of 93 and 94. What to you are the biggest differences between a summer reign and a winter reign? And which do you prefer?
Honestly, I preferred the summer reign. And it may have been because of geography for me at that point, still living down in the Citadel. But the winter rain is all the 12th nights and midwinters and dance collegiums and stuff like that. And it was so much travel for us. I mean, it was, I think back then it took us 11 or 12 hours to get to Denver from El Paso. And there was like events that I went to in Winkeep and stuff like that. And so like the amount of time that we spent in the car driving in the snow, I much rather prefer to maybe driving in the rain in the heat in the summertime.
For sure. Do you have, is there an award that you was your favorite to give out? That, like every time you gave that one out, you were like, yeah, I love this one.
In my first reign, my favorite award to give was a Stag's Play. For sure. Because I would always pick out, we'd go through at the beginning of court or before court, and I'd grab out the medallions according to the list that we were giving out, and I just put them all on and roll out there with them on. And giving the Stag's Play was great because I wasn't a Stag's Play at that point. And so yeah, giving those was awesome. That was my favorite. And a couple of the knights that I made in my first reign were men that I have great respect for, and getting to make those men knights was awesome.
Who are they?
Titus Claudius Severus.
Yep.
Him and Lamorai made us all cry at his knighting. And I was like, you're going to get the hardest buffet, dude. If I have to wipe tears off my face before I punch you, I'm going to punch you hard, dude. And that was like a super, super touching and a beautiful knighting ceremony. And also Sir Lauren. I got to knight him. And that was, a lot of back and forth talk. And I got to actually just hang out with him at Pennsic. And so now I've spent a week with this guy. And we left one camp together. We were talking to each other, maybe a little bit inebriated down the path. I turned left and he turned right, and off I went. And of course, I was 23 years old back then, and I moved pretty fast. And once he realized that, whoa, I lost the king. He was, I was told stories about this dude was behind you for like at every camp all the way back. And he looked and looked and looked for me and like, wow, here you are finally. And like, dude, you went everywhere looking for me? And he's like, yeah, dude, I can't just lose my king. And yeah, I'm gonna knight this dude. That pretty much, like, he clinched it. Like, getting to hang out with him and the great time that we had together at that Pennsic War, he cinched the deal for himself there, pretty much. Just me getting to finally get to know him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, those two knightings were great. And there was another one of a dude that I'm not so proud of, and I'm not going to say who it is.
Understandable. What is it that you think sets the Outlands apart from the rest of the known world?
This is the word that always comes up, just hospitality. I think we're like, it's hospitable, yeah, right on, but we're definitely a very friendly group of people, and an easy group of people to get along with. And I think that's it for me, really. But now, as I travel and as I say, cross the road a little bit more and go meet the people that used to be just opponents back in the day, yeah, there's amazing people all over this place, all over this game. In every kingdom you go to, there's amazing people. But as far as my Outlands family, the way that I was welcomed back in 1989, I was just like dirty skateboarder. And okay, come on, you want to try this? We'll put a helmet on you, and like that kind of welcoming hospitality was what really sealed the deal for me back then.
That's awesome. So I heard you use the phrase crossing the road, and I heard you tell the story on the other show that you were on recently. What was it, do you think, that made you hesitant to cross that road? Was it just the comfort of being around people you already knew and you knew you would have a good time there? Or
I think that's probably exactly it. And I would say as I've gotten older, a little bit older, I'm a little more outgoing than I maybe was when I was younger.
you can see that.
And then also, there's a great number of people that I ended up working behind the scenes with. You know, working early at Estrella or something like that, and all of a sudden these people are great. How come we never hung out before? Because you never crossed the road, dude. You never came over here to check it out, or or even vice versa. But now, we interkingdom parties. I probably know 5 times more people than I did 15 years ago, just because of that.
For sure. That's awesome. And yeah, that was one of the things. I'm kind of an insular person as well. But being king really kind of forces you out of that. And
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
have to go see everyone. You have to go talk to everyone. And you have to give everybody the same courtesy and the same respect, whether you've known them for 20 years or you just met them. And
Right.
that really helped me get out of that shell and make those, long lasting friendships with other people in other kingdoms. And now it makes me want to go there more often and bring more people and introduce more people to these awesome people that I know. So yeah, once you start, it's hard to not cross the road every time.
Well, you have somebody also that says, "Dude, you were so cool to be at my first event," and like sometimes it's been so long that I don't even remember that person's name or whatever. But like to have a positive impact on somebody's very first SCA experience, that maybe they come back for a second. Then, I've always said a good first day will get you your second.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that absolutely, and that yeah.
That's awesome. So when you step down from your reigns, there's kind of the talk of the story of when you start your reign, you have 2 pieces of bread, and the sandwich you eat when you step down is entirely what you put on it during your reign, right? But that comes with good stuff and bad stuff. Was there any particular piece of advice that someone gave you after a reign that particularly stuck with you that really made you stop and think and go, oh yeah, that's a really good way of looking at that?
Oh, that's a tough one. I have to think on that one for a bit. You got another one?
Sure. So Lord Cal would like to know, what is the biggest difference in the SCA from your time on the throne to now?
The accuracy of what we're doing, in my opinion. Like, look back to 1989, there was a lot of lame and cool sparkly fabrics and stuff like that. And that wasn't probably so historically accurate. People were digging what they were doing, and that's great, right on. But I really think, like, as I've gotten a little older, the accuracy is, people's armor looks better, people's costumes look better, people's camps look better, and that's an awesome evolution to watch over 30 years.
Absolutely. Do you think we're raising the bar a little too much though? Making it too hard for the newer people?
It's a volunteer organization. You decide on your level of involvement if you want to take it that far, or if you just want to bring a dome tent and sleep way over there. To each his own. It's cool. Whatever the SCA is. When I was king, I slept in a dome tent a couple of events because it was just easier.
Right.
But I've hit it. Yeah, it's on you. It's like how do you want to play the game? I like my stuff to look real cool, so I make cool stuff.
You make amazing boots. I love my boots that you made me.
Right on. That was the last one right now. There hasn't been anything since then. We might hold strong at number 98.
Well, I love them, and they fit perfect, and it's actually the best fitting boot I've ever had in the SCA. So,
cool. And the knee braces work well over, and we've
yep,
got that design.
yep, it fits perfectly.
Right on. Right on.
So,
Those are very cool.
yeah. Are there were there things that came about during your reigns that like maybe you helped create or helped solidify a tradition or something or a way that we do things here that you kind of look back on now and you're proud of having a hand in those things?
Well, we'll go back to the colored Duke thing again on that one for sure. But the rest of the times, as far as like kingdom ceremonies, stuff like that, we went by the book. A lot of times I was like, no, we'll just do it exactly like the book says and move on, because I didn't want any backfire from somebody saying, no, you can't do it like that. You shouldn't do it like that. I was like, look, let's just do it. We'll get it like just buy the script, get your marks, roll the cameras, and we're done. We're out of here. The court's over. And like,
Right on. Do you remember who your walkers of the way were?
Monica Von Zell. And oh, that was so long ago. I don't remember the other one, and I feel terrible.
I didn't look it up. I just asked. So, if you
Yeah,
can't remember.
for Monica for sure, and I can't remember the other one. I hate that.
It's a long time ago. I understand. Like I have a hard time remembering mine, and they weren't that long ago. I just mix them up from time to time. So you've reigned twice. Do you have any thoughts of ever doing it again?
You know what? If Facebook existed back when I was thinking about being the king of the Outlands, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Really, why is that?
I don't want to have to, like, it's like clocking out, you know? And I don't know, it's too easy to know too much about too many people these days. You know what I mean? And I don't feel like I got anything to hide, but I don't want to be under the magnifying glass at all. You know what I mean?
I understand that.
At this point, I probably wouldn't do it just because my career, for the most part, working in the film business, it's really hard. And I watched Jax do it, and I watched Rory do it, and yeesh.
Yeah, it's rough. What would you like to be remembered for your time on the thrones?
Having fun, making it fun, making people smile. We did things on purpose to make people laugh, and it was also like I tried to make the Queen laugh out loud in every court that we did. You know, because like let's show them that we're having fun too. You know, because who wants to sit through this 2-hour court? Let's make it fun. We asked Assad in court, like one of the last things we did on our first reign, we brought him up in court and asked him to remove his turban. And he looked at me like, oh, I'm going to kill you in the parking lot, dude. And nobody knew anything about it. And we made him a baron of the court right then. We had a servant ready, or, you know, the cornet ready, and made him a baron of the court right there. But like we tried to have fun. We had Gregor with a confetti balloon axe as an executioner at Midwinter. I wanted it to be fun. I wanted to have a good time and smile and laugh and, you know, make people enjoy the day.
That's awesome. We have a comment from the Peanut Gallery. The Red Duchess said she tried to think of a question but couldn't. But you look very handsome.
Well, I think I'll be home soon.
That's awesome. So if as someone who won crown here twice with a sword and Madu, and seeing kind of the sword and Madu culture explode in this kingdom, and knowing that we're kind of known for that style worldwide, do you look back on that and kind of take that as a point of pride, and you know, the fact that you were so good at it that people wanted to emulate that?
I don't try to take credit for it or too much, because there was a lot of different styles of it out there. Like Assad had the real long Madu style back in the day, and then Rutner was rocking the 4-footer when I started playing. And I think that I just changed the way people fought with him maybe a little bit, to where all of a sudden you've got that real nice left jab, and that reached that distance. And that, for me being 6'2", I was 6'2" then, and 170 pounds maybe, out of armor, and I couldn't shield to shield with people. I just get pushed around. And so if I can do all the work from out here, it made it great for me. And there was so many angles, and I think it was a perfect weapon system for a skinny, tall guy. But I don't want to take any kind of credit for it. Maybe if I inspired people, right on. But
I don't mean it as a taking credit for being the guy, but like yourself, like you said, Rutner, Assad fought with it, Haroon fought with it, and for guys like myself and Boleslav, I might be speaking for him, but I know there are other guys that have come after you that have fought that style, and a large part of why I picked it up is I saw you guys having fun with it and really enjoying that style, and it looked intriguing and fun. And so, whether not so much a credit thing, but you're kind of like you're one of the guys that made it cool to use, and so that's inspiring to people.
right on. I'm glad. I'm happy for that.
It's one of those questions that I ask because now that Zipster and Gabe have gotten knighted and moved to other kingdoms, they've since started fighting Sword and Madu. And so everybody keeps coming to me and going like, well, why didn't you get them to fight that style when they were your squire? And I'm like, well, first of all, it took 2 years to get Gabe to wear pants. And second of all, those guys don't listen. They're going to do what they're going to do. But so I get a little bit of that, like, do you feel, proud or, a sense of like, oh, that's cool that there's other guys that are, kind of picking up the ball from me and running with it and doing well with it.
Yeah, absolutely proud of that.
The Black Duke would like to know what it was like to block shots with a Madu from the Black Duke.
The Black Duke. He was like very famous for hitting people in the butt or in the back of the leg, like just it would leave smoke after it landed. I believe only one time did I get hit by that, and after that I would like bend all the way over and block that leg wrap with my head, or anything to get out of it. But there was one time that I blocked a shot. I blocked a flat snap. It hurt my wrist after I blocked the shot, hit me in the shoulder, and then hit me in the head. And that stick it was probably about that big around, and went straight through everything. And then I fought the Black Duke differently.
I have a very similar story to that. But
Thanks, Johnny.
So, yeah. That's awesome. If looking around at the kind of up-and-comers and people that are fighting in crowns in the Outlands now, is there someone that you would really like to see win and reign in the Outlands?
At this point, I don't have any favorites. I just want to see somebody that is willing to do the job correctly. Absolutely. If you're going to do the crime, you got to do the time. You got to, take it seriously and do it right
For sure.
because of all those kings before you and queens before you and the whole kingdom that's sitting there watching you, you know.
If a first time crown were to win, what piece of advice would you give to them?
What was one more time? That question?
So a first time crown, someone has just won their first crown and they're prince and princess and they're going to step up and reign in the Outlands. What piece of advice would you give to them?
You've got to figure out how to make it fun. There's going to be a lot of work, but you've got to have fun too, or you're going to be miserable if you're not having a good time. So, you do the work, but also find time to step away, take the hat off, go dance if you like to dance, go fight if you like to fight, go find your time to do what you like, to what brought you to the SCA, and make time for that for sure.
That is really great advice. All right, so we're gonna circle back to that question you needed some time to think on, see if you've got an answer for it yet. What is the biggest difference in the SCA from your time on the throne to now?
I did that one, right? That was it was the piece of advice that I got.
Oh, you're right. You're right. My bad. I get hit in the head a lot.
Or I answered that question.
So yeah.
I was pretty proud of myself for a little bit afterwards. After I stepped down or whatever, and the Black Duke had to check me a little bit and say, "Dude, don't toot your own horn. Everybody sees what you're doing." So I throttled down a little bit on acting like Billy Badass, and just went and trained and fought and won tournaments. And yeah, maybe I was a little proud of myself when I was Count Zero.
I can relate. Yeah, I understand that one. Are there any? Was there a piece of largesse that you got to give out, or that was given to you as a gift during one of your reigns that like really stuck with you or is special to you in any way?
The green belt, the unbelted king's belt that Creon made, was probably my favorite thing out of all the regalia that we got, because it was made to my skinny waist size, and it was so perfect. And I got it at Penza. So I was just out there rocking the Outlands crown and this cool green belt, and people are tripping out on me like, "Who's this dude? Who's this dude?" Fighting in the Ford battle, and it's like, "Hey, dude, you got to be on your knees." They're all, "Dude, he's the king of the Outlands. Leave him alone."
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that belt so much, and I didn't want to wear that and a white belt. So my last reign before this, I had Creon make one like that is a white belt now. So now there's a white one to go with the green one. So we have options.
Yeah, there's one also a white one now for the queen.
Yeah, that your wife had made.
Yes.
That is awesome. Those are very cool and amazing belts to wear for sure. What are there any stories that you'd like to tell us from your time on the Thrones that we haven't touched on at all?
No, they're like super jumping out without I don't know what like any kind of context would be.
Well, let's do this then. Were there kings that you tried to emulate, or that you kind of took things that they did and went, "Yeah, I want to try and be like that in this instance"? Or who were the guys that you kind of modeled yourself after?
I was always super impressed with Arton. He's a bad dude. I mean, and I think that everything that Arton does because he loves the Outlands and he loves the SCA. And that he inspired me quite a bit. I kind of I really liked the raspiness of the Black Duke and the edginess of him. He's a bad dude, you know, and that was a lot of history there. Though I wasn't around for his reign, I've always been very, very impressed with Master Goomba. Another person that I think everything that he does is for the good of society, you know, or the kingdom, or the barony, or the two people that he's standing next to, you know. Christopher, always very impressed with Christopher. I wasn't around for his reigns, but every time I've interacted with him, I've always been impressed with him. And back when I got to watch some of his fighting, I'm going to say it was Coronation in '91. I watched him fight the Black Duke in the Queen's Champion final. It was probably one of the most amazing fights that I've ever seen. And kind of made me go home and think a little bit. Like, those guys were so good. Blocking with this much corner. You know, just there's been a bunch of them.
Cool.
Yourself, you've always inspired me. Again, a person that I think everything that you do is to make this a better place for us all. Inspiring.
Thank you.
There's tons of them. I'm probably missing so many.
So I want to switch gears a little bit here. So you've reigned twice, and then you've also later on had the opportunity to sit back and watch your wife be queen twice. What was that like? You know, having been king and being a duke and knowing, you know, all the things that she's going to go through, but not actually being there with it and just kind of watching it happen. Like what stands out to your memory about those times?
The flamenco dance that she inevitably got. And I bet you she's blushing right now sitting at home watching this. But yeah, ole. And I'd always like, especially if like things were too real at the moment, there was always time to get up and do a little flamenco dance for my wife. And
that's awesome.
Get a smile on her face and make sure she's having fun with it. It was great to watch, though. It was inspiring. She's pretty badass.
Very true. Very inspiring.
She kicked ass both times, and she put on a great show for sure. Like, she made courts fun.
Yeah, and she did awesome.
I liked
earlier too.
Yeah,
when she was on with Her Majesty.
And when it was time to get the work done, well, you know who's going to get it done.
For sure. Lord Cal would like to know if you could fight one person right now, who would it be?
Ooh, I got that one on my Google Talk too, and I'm going to go with the same answer. And I thought about that, and I was like, no, it would be really cool to see that dude and hang out again at some point. So my ex-squire, Lord Khalid, I would really like to fight that dude again. And he was always a fun fight.
Yeah, he was. What happened to that?
Miss that dude.
Yeah, he is a great
dude.
dude.
Him again. That's 2 votes. So
very cool. If so this is a 2-part question. What is your favorite event in the Outlands that you used to love going to or still love going to? Number 1. And number 2, what event would you encourage people from outside the Outlands to come to sample some of the Outlands hospitality?
Okay, the first one is still going to be outlandish. And the second one is y'all come to Battlemore. That's because Battlemore is it's pretty there all the time. It's always pretty there, no matter what. And outlandish can be not so pretty sometimes. It takes a bit of fortitude to endure through them. But yeah, those are absolutely Outlands and Battlemore.
Very cool. For some reason, I would have expected Lonely Mountain. That's been a pretty popular answer for that.
Yeah, if we still go, you know, that was always one of my favorites. But
I missed that event a lot.
That I kind of probably forgot about it a little bit, actually, honestly.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had it. I miss it. I miss that, and I miss Three Hawks. I don't know if you ever got to go to a Three
I
Hawk.
never made one of those. That was always so far.
It goes both ways, you know. It's the
I
same
know.
distance
Right,
from here to
both directions.
there. I think we've gone through all of my questions. So, is there anything like? Are there any stories that you can remember, or just anything that you want to bring up or touch on while you have a moment with us?
No, I wasn't ready for that one.
Well, so have you served as King's Champion and Queen's Champion? Because I know you've served as Queen's Champion once.
Yeah, I was Leafs Kings champion in his second reign, Leaf Iverson.
Did you approach being King's Champion and Queen's Champion in the same way, or was it two distinct different roles to you?
I think I treated them differently because I understand more of what the position requires now. Yeah, Leaf was kind of hard to keep up with, just like I was. Like he's gonna go hang out. He's gonna go do what he's gonna do, and it was, I didn't get to like tag along like you would normally do and make sure that your king is with someone. And then the Queen's Champion thing, I was lucky because I got to be Queen's Champion both times at Australia War. And that's one of my favorites, especially like if she just picks up the spear, whether it was Anna or was Slane or whoever, and then I just get into my happy place with that big old shield. And then just let it work and let them have a great Australia,
That's awesome. Do you have a particular favorite story from War of the Staked Plains?
The Staked Plains, I won my first crown there, and I became a duke there. And then they started having those wars, and that was kind of in the summer that I was the unbelted duke. And that year was so fun. And those guys from Anstioric, the first year they did it, they didn't bring that many people, and I don't know that they were actually completely ready for how good the fighters from the southern Outlands were going to be. And so we kicked their ass kind of the first year, and the second year, boy, they came to fight. And that second year was so much fun. It was so hot there, but it was so much fun.
And that was a great site too. That was a lot of fun.
Fun times. Ned Hook Park. Right? And then they got their own place, their own spot that was adjacent that the castle got built at. And that castle years later was very fun to fight in. I remember having some good fights there with Bolslav and Alric next to me.
Nice. It looks like Pierre has a question for you that is, where were you proudest to be a Shire defender?
I guess the only Shire, I was probably the only one was Karamith and Hollow, where that young man used to live when he was a lad. I can remember the both of them. When I started playing the game, they were tiny little dudes. Great to watch them grow up. I won the both of those brothers in a plunder tournament, so they're mine actually. They belong there.
That's awesome. Well, Your Grace, we've reached the 1 hour mark. I want to give you every opportunity to tell any story or say anything that you'd want to say while you're on this show. Is there anything that you'd like to touch on before we go?
No, basically, but I'd like to thank you and your crew for doing these. I kind of been checked out of Facebook since like October or so, which kind of I don't miss because I learn a whole lot more stuff that way. But like I think these are valuable, and these are like making people like these last two interviews have completely reminded me and kind of invigorated my love for this. So like I'm gonna have to make it a point to tune in and watch these because this is really cool, and what a great forum. Like this works out really cool.
Awesome.
It's like we were sitting in the same room hanging out. I wish I could cheers you right now.
And that's what I try to make it as. To me, it's interesting for other folks if it's just you and I having a conversation. So that's what I try to make it as much as possible. So, and again, yeah, this is a great opportunity for us to video document the history of our kingdom and the guys, the men and women who have come before me, who have served this kingdom and have done so proudly and with, it's. I know more than a lot of people how much time and energy you put in to being crown of the Outlands, and most people only see, the 8 hours or 12 hours or whatever it is at the event, and they don't see all the energy and time you put into it during the week. And so I know what you have put into this kingdom, and I appreciate greatly, and I'm honored to be able to have an opportunity and a forum to have you and others on so that you can tell your stories. So
thank you so much.
Well, so as we go, raise a glass again to an amazing new year for everyone. Hopefully very soon we will be able to meet and have events and share drinks around the campfire again. So until then, cheers.
I'll bring my 12-string, I promised you.
I can't wait. Thank you, Eudace. Have a great rest of your day.